Okay guys, here today we're going to be making the Canadian rocket stove on OnShape. First thing you want to do is come over here to create and then go to document. We're going to call this Canadian rocket stove. I'm going to call it Canadian rocket stove 2 because I've already drawn it. And we're going to wait for that to load in. There are 24 different parts that we need to draw, and in this first section, the part studio is where we draw them. So we're going to focus in on top, and we're going to use sketch, and then click on top. We're going to come over here to the line tool, and we're going to go from the origin up into the air like this. And we want this to go up 59 mil. And we're going to have a line coming up like this, and then back down there. We're going to use this fillet tool, and we're going to fillet between this line, and it's going to be a radius of 5 mil. We're going to grab our dimension tool. We're going to go from this edge of the radius back to that point there on that line. And that's going to be 72 mil. We're going to go from this point of the radius back to that edge of the line and drag it out like that so we get the height. And that is 108 mil. We need to put in a little circle just there. So we use the circle tool and just drag it out there. This circle is 6.5 mil diameter. And we need the dimension from the center of the circle back to there. And that is 15 mil. And from the center of the circle back to here. And that's also 15 mil. Push the big green tick, and that's our first sketch done. Now what we need to do is we need to use the extrude tool to extrude this out. And this comes out for 22 mil. And now we have this block. What we want to do now is use this sheet metal tool model button, and we're going to select that we've just drawn as the part to be converted. Now faces to exclude, we don't want this one, or this one, and we don't want the inside of that circle either. So we have these three faces here that we're going to bend up, and this is going to hold our leg. Edges to bend, we're going to have that point there, and that point there. We need to make sure that the thickness is 2 mil, because we're using 2 mil checker plate, and our bend radius is just going to be 1. Alright, and that's what it's going to look like. We need to come down here to parts, right click, go to properties, and we call this leg assembly. Hey guys, Future Mr. Benko here. Since making these videos, I made a bit of a discovery. So throughout these videos here, I add the name of each part into this section here. You don't actually need to do that. The only thing you need to have in this section here is the measurements, not the name. And it's going to be 108 times 175 times 2 millimeter check plate. And this is part number 1. Save. And now what we're going to do is we're going to hide that away so it doesn't get in our way for drawing the rest of our drawings. Now what we're going to do is we want to focus on right, and we're going to do another sketch. We're going to get the circle tool, we're going to go from the origin out like this, and this is going to be 250 diameter. We want to have a line that goes straight across here like this. See how it's a dotted line? That means it is parallel to the ground, or this axis here. So what we want to do is draw a second line coming from the origin straight down to the edge of our job here. And then we dimension from the bottom point to that line. And that's going to be 210. We're just going to put that line out there like that. So now we can use this trim tool and we can trim that top off. What we're going to do now is use the offset tool, select this, and go out like that. And this is going to be 1 mil offset. And then we're just going to have to extend this line back here. Trim, get rid of that extra bit. Remember when you're zooming in and out that you zoom towards where the cursor is. That is our barrel sketch done. And what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to this sketch 2 here, and we're going to rename it because this is kind of an important sketch. We're going to be using it a few times. Call it barrel sketch. Okay, we're going to now extrude that tiny little sliver over there. And we're going to extrude it for 544 mil. So that gives us the barrel of our Canadian rocket stove. So we're going to right click on this, properties, call it barrel. And this is going to be 544 by 580 by 1 millimeter black sheet. Part number 2. So you see how our barrel sketch is now being hidden? We need to just click on this little eye icon and that's going to bring this back. We're going to hit the little eye icon and hide the barrel. We need to come up here to this plane tool, and what we need is the curve point. We want to be on the inside one and the end of that one there. So now what we want to do is sketch on that plane we just drew. We're going to come down here. We're going to start with our line tool coming off that center point there. We're going to come straight back, making sure the line is broken, and that's going to be 30 mil long. We're going to come straight back up this way. That's going to be 2. Straight across, that's going to be 1. And then straight back down, and that's going to be 2. Then we're going to use the 3-point arc so that we can do this. That one there should be 2. Now we can use the offset tool and we pick up this line, this line, this line, and this line. Push enter, and then we want this to be offset by 1 mil. And then we can just close that gap there and close this gap here. So we end up with a little bit like this. We can use the trim tool, get rid of those lines there just to make it a little bit neater. And then that's that sketch. So hit the tick button. Now what we're going to do is use the sweep tool. Now the faces to sweep is that little thing that we just drew. And the sweep path is that inside corner, inside edge there. So you can see that's swept around this thing to make this barrel seam thing, and the ends of our rocket stove sit into that little groove there. And then this sits inside the barrel that we just made. Tick that. Right click on that. Properties. We're going to call this barrel seam. And this is 40 by 580 by 1 mil black sheet. This is part number 3. Save. I'm going to hide that away again. We're simply going to use the extrude tool, and we're going to extrude this and that little bit there. And this is going to be 2 mil thick, and that's it. We're going to right click on this, go to properties. We're going to call this closed barrel end. And this is going to be 250 by 210 by 2 mil check plate. And we're up to part number 4. Save. So hide that thing we just did. So what we need to do is right click on this barrel sketch and hit copy sketch. Create a new sketch and paste it in. And we're just going to move this back to the origin point so that everything turns black again, because black is a nice color. It actually means that everything is dimensioned back to this origin point, which is a very nice thing to do because it stops things from going weird. Anyway, what we got to do now is add in the little hole that goes in the front so you can put timber and stuff into our fireplace. So we're going to come up here, we're going to come to the square tool, we're going to use center point rectangle. Go from the origin and drag out like this. We're going to use the dimension tool, we're going to come up here, that's going to be 180. And this one here is going to be 130. We're going to use the fillet tool. We're going to fillet this corner. And that's going to be a radius of 45 degrees. And we want to do that here, here, enter, enter, here, enter, enter. Now we're going to extrude this and that little edge on the side. And this is going to be extruded 2 mil. So now we have this surface here with a little hole in the center. Tick. Right click on the part 5, go to properties. We're going to call this open barrel end. And this is going to be 250 times 210 times 2 mil checker. And this is part number 5.